In a distant corner of the galaxy, the lush and vibrant planet of Eldoria glimmered under the bright sun, its forests and mountains a testament to the beauty of life. The Eldorian people, known for their wisdom and grace, thrived in harmony, guided by their noble king, Varrock. Among them was his beloved daughter, Princess Lyra, a fierce warrior with a heart as vast as the skies above. Her laughter echoed through the halls of the castle, bringing joy to all who heard it. But darkness loomed on the horizon, for the Zarnok Empire, a ruthless force seeking to conquer and destroy, had set their sights on Eldoria. As the Zarnok ships descended like shadows over the landscape, the air crackled with tension. King Varrock gathered his bravest warriors, preparing them for the battle that would determine the fate of their homeland. He looked into the eyes of his soldiers, searching for signs of courage. But his heart ached with worry for Lyra. She insisted on joining the fight, her spirit unyielding. "Father, I must protect our people," she had declared, determination shining in her eyes. Reluctantly, Varrock allowed her to fight alongside the others. Knowing her skills were unmatched, the clash began with a thunderous roar as the Zarnak forces descended upon the Eldorian stronghold. Metal clashed against metal, and the cries of warriors filled the air. Lyra fought fiercely, her sword dancing through the chaos, striking down foes with precision. She was a whirlwind of power and grace, embodying the spirit of her people. But as the battle raged on, a sudden ambush from the Zarnok forces sent shockwaves through the Eldorian ranks. In the midst of the chaos, Varrock fought valiantly, his heart pounding in his chest as he sought out his daughter. He caught glimpses of her, a blur of motion as she defended their people. But then, a deafening explosion rocked the battlefield, sending debris flying and smoke billowing into the sky. In that moment, a sense of dread washed over Varrock as he searched for Lyra among the confusion. Time seemed to stand still as he called her name, his voice straining against the roar of battle. "Lyra, where are you?" After what felt like an eternity, the smoke began to clear. The battlefield lay in ruins, littered with the fallen. Varrock felt his heart drop as he realized the terrible truth. Lyra was missing. His world shattered in an instant. He fought through the chaos, desperately, looking for any sign of her, but all he found were the echoes of despair. The once proud Eldorian forces were crumbling, and with them, his hopes for a brighter future. As the last remnants of the Eldorian army retreated, Varrock stood amidst the destruction, grief and anger swirling within him. He had lost his daughter, and with her, a part of himself. The once vibrant castle now felt like a tomb, a reminder of his failure as a father and a ruler. He returned to the castle, the weight of sorrow heavy on his shoulders. The Eldorian people looked to him for strength, but he felt none. How could he lead them when he had lost the most precious thing in his life? Days turned into weeks, and the hope of finding Lyra faded like shadows at dawn. King Varrock mourned openly, his heart heavy with guilt and sorrow. He spent sleepless nights in his chamber, haunted by the memories of his daughter's laughter and the warmth of her embrace. The kingdom fell into despair, the vibrant colors of Eldoria dulled by the sorrow of loss. Little did Varrock know, deep within the enemy's encampment, Lyra was alive. Captured but unbroken, she fought against the odds, determined to escape and return to her father. Her spirit was fierce, and she would stop at nothing to prove that hope could rise, even from the ashes of despair. The battle for Eldoria was far from over, and fate had a plan that would change everything. The story of King Varrock and Princess Lyra was only beginning, and the bonds of family and courage would soon be tested in ways they could never imagine. In the aftermath of the devastating battle, the once beautiful Eldoria felt like a shadow of its former self. King Varrock walked through the empty halls of the castle, his heart heavy with grief. The vibrant gardens that once bloomed with colorful flowers now seemed wilted, mirroring the sorrow that enveloped the kingdom. The laughter of children, which had filled the air, was replaced by silence. Varrock felt the weight of his people's despair, for he had failed to protect the one person he cherished most, his beloved daughter, Princess Lyra. Days turned into weeks, and hope began to fade like the setting sun. Varric held daily meetings with his advisors, but their discussions felt hollow. Plans to regroup and defend against the Zarnok Empire seemed futile when he could not shake the image of Lyra's smiling face from his mind. He could still see her, standing proudly in her armor, ready to fight for her people. The memory was both a comfort and a torment, reminding him of the strength she had always possessed. Meanwhile, far from Eldoria, Lyra was fighting her own battle. After her capture, she found herself in a dark, cold cell within the Zarnok encampment. The walls were rough, and the air was thick with the scent of metal and smoke. She was frightened but refused to let despair take hold. "I will escape," she whispered to herself, her spirit unyielding. She thought of her father and the life they had shared, and that thought fueled her determination. She could not let him down. She had to find a way back home. Days passed as Lyra plotted her escape. She observed the guards, learning their routines and weaknesses. She listened closely as they spoke of the Eldorian force's struggles, and with each passing day, her resolve grew stronger. She was not just a princess. She was a warrior, and she would not allow her people to suffer because of her capture. Her heart ached with longing for her father, and she knew she must return to him. Not just for her sake, but for the sake of Eldoria. One night, as the guards changed shifts, Lyra seized her chance. She slipped out of her cell, her heart racing with both fear and excitement. The darkness wrapped around her like a comforting cloak, and she moved silently through the corridors of the encampment. Each step took her closer to freedom and closer to her father. Just as she thought she was in the clear, a Zarnak soldier appeared out of the shadows. Lyra's instincts kicked in, and she quickly dodged him, her training taking over. With a swift movement, she knocked him unconscious. Her heart pounding in her chest, with newfound courage, Lyra continued her escape. Navigating through the treacherous terrain surrounding the enemy camp, the moon illuminated the path ahead, guiding her as she ran. She thought of her father, his fierce determination and unwavering love. "I will find you, father," she vowed. Silently to herself, the thought of reuniting with him pushed her forward, fueling her feet as they flew over the ground. Back in Eldoria, King Varric felt a stirring within him, a flicker of hope igniting in the depths of his sorrow. He was haunted by dreams of Lyra, visions of her fighting bravely amid the chaos. Each morning, he would wake up with a sense of longing, desperate to believe that she was still alive. He gathered what remained of his forces, determined to launch a new campaign against the Zarniks. "We will not rest until we reclaim our home," he declared passionately during a meeting, his voice filled with a fierce conviction that surprised even himself as Varric addressed his warriors. He felt a surge of energy coursing through him. The sight of their determined faces reminded him of the strength of his people, and he realized that his daughter's spirit lived on in them. They were fighting not just for their kingdom, but for Lyra as well. Inspired by their courage, Varric decided to send out search parties, hoping against hope that they might find her. Meanwhile, Lyra pressed on, driven by the love for her father and her people. She finally reached the edge of the Zarnok territory, and as the landscape began to change, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. The journey home was fraught with danger, but she knew that with each step, she was closer to reuniting with her father. The bond between them was powerful. She could feel it guiding her through the darkness. In the heart of Eldoria, both King Varric and Princess Lyra were on a collision course with destiny. Their hearts were intertwined, and the love they shared would soon be tested in ways they could never have imagined. As hope began to flicker back to life, the stage was set for an epic reunion that would change the fate of their world forever. Lyra dashed through the dense forest, her heart racing with a mix of fear and determination. The moon hung high in the sky, casting a silvery glow on the path ahead. The sound of rustling leaves and snapping twigs echoed around her, but she pressed on, knowing that the longer she remained in Zarnok territory, the closer she came to capture once again. Each step brought her closer to home. But she knew that the journey ahead was still fraught with danger as she navigated the thick underbrush. She suddenly stumbled upon a clearing. Before her stood a group of Zarnok soldiers, their armor glinting ominously in the moonlight. Just as panic threatened to overwhelm her, she spotted movement behind a nearby tree. A tall figure emerged, a human soldier, clad in a rugged uniform and holding a weapon with steady hands. Lyra felt a rush of hope. Perhaps this was her chance. The human, Jake, had been sent to assist the Eldorians in their fight against the Zarniks. His mission had begun with a simple goal: to gather intelligence and return home. But when he heard about the princess's disappearance, everything changed. He felt a strong pull to find her, to ensure that she was safe. As he spotted Lyra, he saw not just a princess, but a warrior with fierce determination in her eyes. "Are you hurt?" Jake asked, his voice low and steady as he stepped closer, eyes scanning the area for any signs of danger. Lyra shook her head, taking a moment to catch her breath. "I need to get back to Eldoria," she replied, her voice unwavering, despite the exhaustion that weighed heavily on her. "I can't do it alone. Will you help me?" Jake hesitated. For a moment, weighing the risks, but he saw the fire in her eyes and knew he could not turn away. "Of course," he said, determination igniting within him. "Together, we can find a way back." With that, an unlikely alliance was formed. They were two warriors from different worlds, bound by a shared purpose and a fierce desire to protect their homes. Their journey began with cautious steps, moving through the shadows of the trees. As they traveled, Lyra shared her story, the pain of losing her father, the battle that had torn her from her home, and her determination to restore hope to her people. Jake listened intently, feeling a deep respect for her strength. He shared his own experiences, the challenges he faced as a soldier far from home. They found comfort in each other's stories, realizing how similar their struggles were, despite their different backgrounds. Days passed, and as they journeyed together, their bond grew deeper. They learned to rely on each other's strengths. Lyra's agility and combat skills complemented Jake's tactical knowledge and bravery. They became a formidable team, moving swiftly through the treacherous terrain, always on guard for Zarnok patrols. With each close call, they learned to trust one another more, their hearts entwined in a shared mission. One night, as they camped beneath the stars, Lyra gazed up at the vast sky, her heart heavy with thoughts of her father. "I should be home." Fighting alongside him, she whispered, her voice tinged with sorrow. Jake looked at her, his expression serious. "You're fighting for him, Lyra? You're not alone? You're not just a princess? You're a leader? Your people need you." His words resonated deeply within her. She realized that her journey was not just about returning home, but also about proving to herself that she was capable of great things. With Jake by her side, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. Together, they were not just fighting against the Zarnoks. They were fighting for the future of Eldoria. As they continued their journey, they began to devise a plan. They would infiltrate the Zarnok camp, gather intelligence, and find a way to turn the tide of the war in favor of the Eldorians. The thought was daunting, but together, they felt unstoppable. Their alliance was a beacon of hope, shining brightly against the darkness that threatened to engulf them. With each passing day, they grew closer, their friendship blossoming into a bond that neither had expected. They shared laughter, fears, and dreams, finding solace in each other's presence. Lyra began to see Jake not just as an ally, but as a friend. Someone who understood her struggles and fought alongside her for a common cause as they approached the border of Zarnok territory. Tension hung in the air. They knew the path ahead would be dangerous, but together, they felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. With determination in their hearts, Lyra and Jake prepared to confront their enemies. United by a shared mission and a deepening bond of friendship that would change their lives forever. The fight for Eldoria was just beginning, and they were prepared to stand together against the storm. Lyra and Jake moved stealthily through the dense underbrush, their hearts pounding with anticipation and fear. The Zarnok camp lay just ahead, a sprawling fortress surrounded by thick walls and guarded by watchful sentinels. As they approached, Lyra's determination grew stronger. This was not just about her return. It was about saving her people and reclaiming their home. "We can do this," she whispered to Jake, her voice steady, despite the uncertainty that loomed before them. Jake nodded, his resolve unwavering. We will find a way inside and gather the information we need. The Zarneks won't know what hit them. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of their mission pressing down on him. Together they had faced countless challenges, and now they were on the verge of something monumental. With careful movements, they crept closer to the camp, using the shadows to their advantage. The smell of smoke and the sound of clashing metal filled the air as they listened to the Zarnok soldiers talk, their voices gruff and filled with malice. Lyra's stomach knotted at the thought of her people suffering under their rule, but she pushed the fear aside. She had come too far to turn back now, as they neared the perimeter. They spotted a gap in the camp's defenses, a place where the guards were distracted by their own discussions. Lyra's heart raced as she met Jake's gaze, silently asking if he was ready. He gave a slight nod, and together they slipped through the opening, entering the heart of the enemy camp. Inside, the atmosphere was tense. Zarnak soldiers moved, about preparing for an imminent attack on Eldoria. Lyra felt a surge of anger as she watched them laugh and boast about their victories. "They think they have one," she murmured, clenching her fists. "But they will soon learn the truth." Jake agreed, scanning the area for any signs of intelligence they could gather. "We need to find their plans," he said, determination in his voice. "If we can uncover their strategies, we can use it against them." The two moved stealthily through the camp, searching for any documents or maps that might reveal the Zarnek's next move. As they crept deeper into the camp, they discovered a large tent at the center, adorned with the Zarnek insignia. Lyra felt a rush of adrenaline. "That must be it," she whispered, pointing toward the entrance. They approached cautiously, hearts pounding in their chests. With a quick glance at each other, they pushed through the opening, ready to face whatever lay inside. Inside the tent, they found a table covered in maps and documents, lit by flickering lanterns. Lyra's eyes widened as she scanned the papers. Recognizing the layout of Eldoria and the planned attacks on its cities, "This is it," she breathed, quickly gathering the information. "I can show this to my father. We can save our kingdom." But just as they were about to leave, the sound of footsteps echoed outside the tent. Panic surged through Lyra as she exchanged a worried look with Jake. "We need to get out of here now," she urged, grabbing the documents and shoving them into her satchel. They turned to flee, but the entrance was blocked by a group of Zarnak soldiers, their eyes filled with suspicion. "Stop right there," one of the soldiers shouted, drawing his weapon. Lyra's heart raced as she felt the cold grip of fear, but she refused to give in. "We won't let them take us," she cried, ready to fight. Jake stepped in front of her, ready to protect her at all costs. "We fight together," he declared, adrenaline surging through him. With a fierce determination, they charged at the soldiers. Lyra's training kicked in as she fought with grace and skill, striking down the first soldier with a swift blow. Jake fought valiantly by her side, using his strength to take on multiple foes. The clash of weapons rang through the tent, echoing into the night. But even as they fought, they knew they were outnumbered.
We have to get out of here."
Jake shouted, glancing back at Lyra. They pushed their way through the soldiers, dodging attacks and using their agility to their advantage. Just as they reached the exit, a Zarnok soldier lunged at Jake, knocking him off balance. "Jake," Lyra cried, fear gripping her heart. She turned back, instinctively rushing to help him. With a fierce determination, she struck the soldier, down, her heart pounding as she pulled Jake to his feet. "We can't stay here any longer," she urged, glancing back at the tent, with the stolen documents clutched tightly in her hand. They burst into the night, adrenaline propelling them. Forward, they dashed through the camp, weaving between tents and soldiers, narrowly avoiding capture. Lyra's heart raced as they finally reached the edge of the camp, the sounds of chaos fading behind them. As they burst into the safety of the forest, they collapsed against a tree, gasping for breath. Lyra looked at Jake, her eyes wide with excitement and fear. "We did it. We have what we need," she exclaimed, her voice trembling with adrenaline. Jake nodded, his face reflecting the thrill of their escape. "But we need to move quickly. They'll be looking for us." With newfound determination, they set off into the darkness, knowing that their journey was far from over. The vital information in their possession, they felt a renewed sense of hope. They were no longer just survivors. They were warriors, and together, they would fight for Eldoria's future. Under the cover of night, Lyra and Jake hurried through the dense forest, their hearts racing with both fear and excitement. They had successfully infiltrated the Zarnok camp and gathered crucial information about their enemy's plans. Moved deeper into the woods, the thrill of their victory mingled with the weight of what lay ahead. They had stolen the key to saving Eldoria, but now they needed to return to King Varek and share the intelligence that could turn the tide of war. "We have to reach the castle before dawn," Jake urged, glancing at the sky, which was beginning to lighten with the first hints of morning. "The sooner we warn your father, the better." Lyra nodded, her mind filled with thoughts of her father. She could only imagine the pain he had endured since her disappearance. The thought of reuniting with him filled her with hope, but she knew they had to be cautious. The Zarniks would soon realize they were missing, and a search would undoubtedly begin. As they traveled, Lyra recalled the bond she and Jake had formed during their journey. He had become more than just an ally. He was her friend, her partner. In this fight for freedom, they had faced danger together, relying on each other's strengths. Now, with the crucial information in their possession, they had a chance to make a real difference. But as they pushed forward, uncertainty gnawed at the edges of her mind. Would her father accept Jake? Would he trust a human soldier after all the pain the Zarniks had caused? When they finally reached the outskirts of Eldoria, a sense of relief washed over Lyra. The familiar sights of her homeland filled her with nostalgia, but the remnants of war were evident. The once vibrant fields lay scarred. The distant sound of hammers echoed as the Eldorian people worked to rebuild their lives. Lyra's heart ached at the sight, but she steeled herself. She had to focus on the task at hand. As they approached the castle gates, Lyra felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. "We need to find a way to get inside without alerting the guards," Jake said, scanning the area. They slipped into the shadows, careful to avoid the watchful eyes of the sentries patrolling the perimeter. With her heart pounding, Lyra led the way to a hidden entrance she had often used as a child. Once inside, they hurried through the dimly lit corridors, their footsteps echoing softly against the stone walls. Lyra's mind raced as she thought of her father. She could already picture his expression relief, mixed with disbelief, when he saw her again. But time was of the essence. It had to inform him of the Zarnok plans before it was too late. Finally, they reached the throne room, where King Ver held court. As they entered, the room fell silent. The courtiers turned to look at the unexpected visitors, and Lyra felt a wave of anxiety wash over her. But her determination pushed her forward. "Father," she called, her voice filled with emotion. King Varric looked up, shock and disbelief washing over his face as he recognized his daughter. "Lyra," he exclaimed, rushing toward her with open arms. The moment they embraced, tears streamed down Varric's face. "I thought I had lost you forever," he whispered, his voice choking with emotion. Lyra felt a surge of love and relief as she held her father tightly, savoring the warmth of his presence. But the moment was short-lived. "We don't have much time," Jake interjected, stepping forward. "We have vital information about the Zarnok's plans." The room buzzed with curiosity and concern as all eyes turned toward Jake. Lyra could sense the hesitation in her. "Father's gaze, you trust this human?" Rek asked, his voice filled with doubt. "Yes, father," Lyra insisted, stepping between them. "Jake fought alongside me. He saved my life. He understands what's at stake." Varric studied Jake for a moment, the tension in the air palpable. Then slowly, he nodded, recognizing the truth in Lyra's words. "Very well," Varric said, his voice steadying. "What have you learned?" Jake took a deep breath and began to explain the Zarnak's plans. He laid out the details of their upcoming attacks and the weaknesses they had discovered. "They intend to strike at dawn, targeting the heart of Eldoria. We must act quickly to prepare our defenses." Varric listened intently, his expression shifting from disbelief to determination. "We will not allow them to take our home again," he declared, rallying his advisors and soldiers. We must unite our forces and prepare for battle. Lyra, you will take charge of the defenses. Jake, I want you by her side." Lyra felt a rush of pride and purpose. This was her moment to prove herself, to show her father and her people that she was more than just a princess. She was a warrior, and she would fight for her kingdom. "We will stand together," she promised, her voice strong. "We will protect Eldoria." With newfound resolve, the castle buzzed with activity as preparations began. Lyra and Jake worked tirelessly, strategizing with the soldiers and rallying the Eldorian people. The bond they had forged in the darkness of the forest now shone brightly as they faced the dawn together, ready to reclaim their home and fight for the future of Eldoria. As the first light of day broke over the horizon, the air was thick with tension. They stood side by side, hearts beating as one, prepared to face the Zarnok threat. Together, they would fight for freedom, for family, and for the land they loved. The reckoning was at hand, and they were ready to rise to the challenge. As dawn broke over Eldoria, the skies were painted with hues of orange and gold, a striking contrast to the tension that filled the air. King Varric stood on the castle balcony, gazing out at the horizon where the Zarnok forces were rumored to be gathering. He could feel the weight of his kingdom resting on his shoulders, and his heart swelled with pride as he thought of his daughter, Lyra, and her brave companion Jake. They had faced unimaginable odds and returned with the knowledge that could save their people. Together they were ready to defend their home. In the castle courtyard, Eldorian soldiers prepared for battle, their faces a mix of determination and fear. Lyra moved among them, rallying their spirits. "Today, we fight not just for our kingdom, but for our families, our friends, and for the future we believe in." Her voice rang out, strong and confident, igniting a fire in the hearts of her fellow warriors. They cheered, their resolve solidifying with each word she spoke. Jake stood beside her, feeling a swell of admiration for Lyra. She was not just a princess. She was a leader, and he knew her strength would inspire others. As they looked out at the army assembled before them, he felt a sense of unity among the diverse warriors. Eldorian and human alike stood together, ready to face the common enemy. "No matter what happens today, we stand as one," he said to Lyra, his voice resolute. As the Zarnok forces approached, the atmosphere grew thick with tension. The ground trembled beneath their feet as the enemy army marched closer, an intimidating sight with their dark armor and fierce expressions. King Varric took his place at the front lines, flanked by Lyra and Jake. "We will not let fear guide us," he declared, his voice carrying over the crowd. "We fight for our home, our people, and for those we love." With a final rallying cry, the Eldorian forces charged forward, their spirits high despite the overwhelming odds. The clash of metal and the cries of battle filled the air as they engaged the Zarnok soldiers. Lyra fought with grace, her sword flashing as she struck down enemies with precision. She could feel the strength of her people behind her, pushing her forward. Each swing of her sword was a testament to her determination to protect her home. Jake fought valiantly at her side, his heart pounding with adrenaline. He had trained for moments like this, but nothing could prepare him for the chaos of battle. He found himself moving instinctively, dodging strikes and countering with swift blows of his own. The bond he shared with Lyra fueled his resolve. They were fighting for one another as much as for their people. In the heat of battle, moments of chaos turned into fleeting glimpses of clarity. Lyra caught sight of her father fighting fiercely alongside the soldiers. He was a beacon of strength, his presence instilling courage in everyone around him. She felt a surge of pride as she fought to protect him, knowing that together they could change the course of history. But just as hope surged through their ranks, the Zarnok leader emerged. From the shadows, a towering figure clad in dark armor. His presence alone sent shivers down the spines of the Eldorian soldiers. "You think you can stand against me?" he bellowed, his voice echoing across the battlefield. "I will crush your spirit and take this land for my own." Lyra felt a wave of fear wash over her, but she quickly pushed it aside. This was not just about her. It was about everyone who had fought and suffered. "We will not back down," she shouted defiantly, her voice rising above the noise. With renewed determination, she charged toward the Zarnok leader, Jake close behind her. As they engaged in battle, the fight became a whirlwind of steel and fury. Lyra's heart raced as she faced the imposing enemy. He was powerful, but she refused to back down. With each strike, she felt the strength of her people behind her, their hopes and dreams fueling her every movement. Jake fought alongside her, unwavering in his support. They moved as one, anticipating each other's next moves as if they were two parts of a single entity. Together, they pushed back against the Zarnak leader, refusing to let fear take hold. Lyra could feel the tide of battle shifting in their favor, the unity of Eldoria powering their every action. But just as victory seemed within reach, the Zarnak leader unleashed a powerful attack, knocking Jake to the ground.
Lyra cried.
Rushing to his side, panic surged through her as she realized they were losing ground. "Get up, Jake. We can't give in." With a fierce determination, Jake struggled to his feet, his eyes filled with resolve. "We fight together, remember?" he said, his voice steady despite the pain. Lyra nodded, their bond of friendship and trust giving her strength. Together, they launched a final assault against the Zarnok leader, their combined power shining like a beacon of hope. As the battle raged around them, they fought with everything they had, determined to protect their homeland and each other. In that moment, they were not just allies. They were warriors bonded by a shared purpose. The clash of metal echoed through the battlefield, and the spirit of unity surged among the Eldorian forces. With one final, desperate strike, Lyra and Jake managed to overpower the Zarnok leader, forcing him to retreat. The tide of battle turned, and the Eldorian soldiers surged forward, emboldened by their victory. As the Zarnok forces began to falter, the realization of their unity filled the air. They had stood together against a common enemy, and together they had triumphed. With the battle won, Lyra and Jake stood side by side, breathing heavily, but filled with a sense of accomplishment. They had fought for their home, their families, and for each other. The bond they had forged in the heat of battle had become unbreakable, and they knew that together they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the sun set over Eldoria, casting a warm glow over the battlefield, they looked out at their people, united in victory. The fight was far from over, but they had proven that love, courage, and unity could conquer even the darkest of foes. Together they would rebuild their kingdom and forge a new future, one where hope reigned supreme. The sun rose over Eldoria, casting a golden light across the land that had suffered so much. The air was filled with the sounds of celebration as the Eldorian people rejoiced in their hard-won victory. King Varric stood on the steps of the castle, his heart swelling with pride as he looked out at the faces of his people, their eyes shining with hope and gratitude. They had fought bravely and together. They had triumphed over the darkness that had threatened to consume their home. Beside him stood Lyra and Jake, their hearts still racing from the adrenaline of battle. They had come so far together, from the depths of despair to this moment of triumph. Lyra felt a sense of fulfillment wash over her as she surveyed the joyful crowd. "We did it, Jake. We really did it," she said, her voice filled with emotion. Jake smiled, the warmth of her words washing over him. "We fought as one. This victory belongs to all of us." As the celebrations continued, Varric called for silence, raising his hand to gather the attention of the crowd. "Today, we honor those who fought bravely for our kingdom. They are our heroes, and their sacrifice will never be forgotten." A hush fell over the crowd as they remembered their fallen comrades. Lyra felt a pang of sorrow for those who had lost their lives in the battle. She knew that their sacrifice had paved the way for a brighter future. With a deep breath, Varric continued, "But today is also a day of new beginnings. We have faced our fears and emerged stronger. The bonds we have formed will guide us as we rebuild our kingdom." The crowd erupted in cheers, their spirits lifted by the words of their king. Lyra felt a rush of hope as she looked around at the familiar faces, knowing that they would face the future together. In the days that followed, the people of Eldoria worked tirelessly to restore their land. They repaired homes, tended to the fields, and celebrated the unity that had brought them through the darkness. Lyra found herself at the forefront of the rebuilding efforts, her heart full of purpose. She was no longer just a princess. She was a leader, a symbol of hope for her people. Jake remained by her side, his presence a constant source of support. Together, they organized efforts to ensure that every family had what they needed to rebuild. As they worked together, their bond deepened, and they began to share their dreams for the future. They envisioned a world where humans and Eldorians could live side by side, united by their shared experiences. One evening, as they stood atop a hill overlooking the kingdom, Lyra turned to Jake, her heart brimming with gratitude. "I couldn't have done any of this without you," she said softly. "You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself." Jake smiled, his eyes reflecting the warmth of her words. "You are stronger than you know, Lyra. You've inspired everyone here, including me." As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with brilliant hues of red and orange, Lyra felt a sense of peace wash over her. "This is just the beginning," she said, her voice filled with determination. "We have a chance to create something beautiful together." Jake nodded, his heart swelling with hope. "And we will. Together, we can change the world." Renewed purpose, they began to lay the foundations for a new alliance between their people. They invited humans from Jake's homeland to visit Eldoria, fostering relationships that would bridge the gap between their cultures. As they shared stories and experiences, they discovered that their differences were not barriers, but opportunities for growth. The bond between Eldorians and humans blossomed, creating a vibrant community filled with diverse ideas and perspectives. As the seasons changed, the kingdom flourished. The once scarred land began to heal, and with it, the hearts of its people. Lyra and Jake continued to work together, leading initiatives to promote understanding and collaboration. They organized festivals that celebrated both Eldorian and human traditions, creating a sense of unity and belonging. One day, as they stood together in the heart of Eldoria, surrounded by laughter and music, Lyra turned to Jake, her eyes shining. With joy, "Look at what we've built," she said, her heart swelling with pride. "This is what hope looks like." Jake smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. "And it's just the beginning. We'll continue to build this together." As the sun set over their kingdom, Lyra and Jake knew that they had forged a new path, one filled with promise and possibility. They had faced darkness and emerged victorious, united by a bond that transcended their differences. Together, they would continue to fight for a brighter future, ensuring that the spirit of Eldoria would forever shine brightly in the hearts of its people. With the dawn of each new day, they felt the strength of their alliance, a testament to the power of love, courage, and unity. The story of Lyra and Jake, once marked by loss and struggle, had transformed into a tale of hope and resilience. And as they looked toward the horizon, they knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, ready to embrace the future with open hearts.